not for the faint of heart. We keep it real and raw and talk about issues that other podcasts wouldn't dare. This is the Truth of the Matter podcast with Dr. Spencer. Step into our world. What do you do if you fall in love with one of your kids' friends who's over 18? How do you handle getting caught in bed with your boss? Why do girls like bad boys? Are you burned out from an unbalanced career and personal life? Are you still working while your kids are telling you how their days went? Our passion is to help people in relationships, anyone you have a connection with in life, neighbors, coworkers, family, spouse, kids, yourself, and helping you achieve the work-life balance. Let's have some fun and let's get educated. This is the Truth of the Matter podcast. And now your host, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Truth of the Matter podcast with Dr. Spencer. You know who I am, Dr. Lamarr Spencer. Don't forget to follow and subscribe, and just make sure that you keep in contact with me, because I'm going to have some great episodes that are going to be dropping soon. But I have what I call her a friend in my mind. I just told her that. Her name is Sally Wurr, and she just told me what some of the monikers for Wurr is. Are you worthy? And I just thought that was phenomenal. So Sally and I met in a group the other couple of weeks ago, and it was about be a guest. And I posted a question about actually choosing between career and also family. And she had so many positive things to say. And I was like, you know what? I need to get you on. But she's an author, speaker, business coach, and she actually is like, her books are like phenomenal. And one of them is called Hold My Crown. And we were going to talk about that because she is full of energy. And she actually inspired me to be better. And I always say, we learn from people and projects. And this was one of the things that, of course, embarking on this journey is what I've learned, that social media, and as Sally and I were just talking, I said, social media is a place now where you can meet so many phenomenal people that ordinarily without it, you probably wouldn't even come in contact. And so I want to say thank you so much, Sally, for being on today and just taking the time to speak with us.
I am just overjoyed to be a part of this. It's exciting, and I can't wait to see what topics and directions we take this with.
Absolutely. So you are in the insurance business, but please give us a little smidget about that, because the story that you had when we were talking about how you and your husband, had the insurance business and how you separated, I thought that was just like phenomenal. I'm like, you know what? To me, I was like, you know what? You go, girl, because you made the decision to kind of separate, although you two were still together. And I was like, you know what? I think other women need to take, a piece of that chapter too. So can you give us a little bit about that? Well, not a little, because you and I, we can talk. So tell us about that whole ordeal or spiel, or what happened.
Yeah, I would be more than happy to, and thankfully it had a happy ending. But
yes,
my whole thing is that they who hold the gold rule. And I was married for 45 years, so my husband and I both had our own corporations, right? So we were a 2-corporation family. He had an insurance company. I had an insurance company, and we did different things as brokers, but it was easier for me when I really started building my business to just have my commission checks go into his company. Because why have two separate separate books and paying the CPA for 2 corporations when we both got paid commissions from insurance carriers? That's kind of the way it went. Uh-huh. And so this was all well and good for years and years and years. This worked well until it didn't. And when you think about marriage is truly, it's a business relationship and it's a partnership. And people don't look at their marriages that way. And it's divide and conquer, right? I mean, certainly when our daughter was growing up, I was the person that was really in charge of what all happened in the house. And he was out working for the company, right? Working for his company. But in 2006, 2007, my company started growing, and I needed to spend money on marketing because I work with corporations. So I go into a corporation, I work with their CEO, their CFO, and put the benefit packages together. I design the packages so that it's simple and easy for everybody to understand and to implement. And so I wrote a check one day in 2007 out of the checking account, right? Which was technically, it was his company, right? But half the commissions going in were mine. We were equal in the income department, right? But I wrote this check and he was absolutely furious. He says, "Why did you write a check out of my checking account?" What? "Why did you write this big check out of my checking account without asking me?" And I go, "Well, because number one, I wanted to do marketing for my company, and that's what the cost was to do what I wanted to do." I said, and I understand your name's on it, but half those commissions belong to me. Mm-hmm. And his reaction was, well, that's all well and good, but you still need to run it by me so I can expect it to come out of the account. And he says, if you really want to do this kind of stuff with your company, he says, you might want to think about having your own company. Okay. And at this point, I was getting a little intense, to say the least. And so, a month or two goes by, and I'm stewing about it. I'm happy on the outside, but in the back of my mind, I'm saying, I don't have to ask for permission. That money was mine. Uh-huh. And so what happened was I called our CPA, who didn't happen to live here in town. I called him and I said, "George," I said, "it's time for Sally to have her own corporation." Because my husband kept saying, if you want to spend money any way you want to, perhaps you should have your own company. So that's what I did. So I told my husband, I said, "Hey, George is going to meet me in your office tomorrow." He goes, "Oh, what does George need? Is he coming in do I need to pull anything for him?" I said, no, he's not coming for you." He goes, "Oh, what's he coming for?" I said, "Well, he's coming for me." I said, "He just put my corporation papers together." I said, "And I just need to sign the documents." And he looked at me kind of funny. He says, "Corporation paper? What?" I said, "Well, remember when you got mad because I wrote that check out of your checking account? I said, "And you told me I should have my own corporation?" I said, "I did." I said, and this was in November. I said, "Oh, and by the way, January 1, all those commissions of mine that you've become accustomed to, they're not coming into your account anymore." And he just kind of looked at me, and I said, "So you don't have to worry. I'm not going to touch, after January, I won't be touching your checking account ever again." And thankfully it worked out smooth, and it's probably one of the best things that I ever did for me, and I'm sure it was for him as well. It was to divide our companies up, and he runs his the way he wants to. I run mine the way I want to. Neither of us has to worry about each other taking something without asking. I'm sure he thought that divorce was going to be next, because usually when I get a little angry like that, I kind of go overboard. But I didn't. If it solved the problem, which it did, then all was well and good. And so that was 2008 when I broke my insurance company away from his. And as I said, life was history. And, unfortunately, I lost my husband in 2020. He passed away. And I had to close his company because he dealt a lot with securities and stuff. And my company does well enough. I don't need to be running his as well. Certainly not in learn tax codes. Thank you very much. But, I share that story with people because that wasn't an easy decision for me to make. Things were running smooth and all was well, except I needed to be the owner of my own company. So I am president and founder of SW Insurance Corp. And it's been around since 2008, even though I've done employee benefits now for 34 years. it's for me, it's what I get up and I enjoy doing every day. 2019 is when I put my first book out there, and it's actually because of Angel Tussey, who we talked about earlier, that started Need a Guest. She had such passion and energy about being an author that I got the bug. Right, I got the bug, and I felt that when I meet so many people, employees, when I'm doing employee benefit meetings, that there's so many of them that haven't experienced life as much as I have. As I said, they call me the storm whisperer, and it's not. It's storms. When I talk about being the storm whisperer, it's because I have a different way of looking at the negative things that come into my life. We all have ugly stuff. We all do. There's not one of us on this planet that gets away with everything being positive. And, moving into the book, Hold My Crown, which is a book that I'm an author and I'm co-author in, that was released 1 year ago this month. It was re-released with more authors in March of this year. But Hold My Crown is an anthology of stories of women who have shared different parts of their life, a snippet of their life, where grit and resilience were important. In my chapter happened to have been when my daughter was born. I mean, we only have one child, but she was what they call a NICU baby. It was a neonatal intensive care unit. And so my story in the book was, what it's like to be put to bed for 2 months, possibility of a stroke happening on any particular day, and then having this 3 pound 8 ounce baby being born, who you don't get to go home with. She spent 2 weeks in the neonatal intensive care unit. She came home at 3 pounds 8 ounces, but there's a lot of reasons why that was allowed. But we all have things that happen to us, and it's there's 2 quotes that I love. One of them is, "The problem is not the problem; it's your reaction to the problem that is the problem." And I try to keep drama llamas away from my life.
Drama llamas, I love it.
Drama llamas. There are those people that it doesn't matter if it's small or huge; they make it massive, and they want everybody in their energy field to know that it's massive to them. But it didn't resolve anything. Mm-hmm. When you go into drama llama mode, you're not resolving whatever the problem was to begin with. You're just adding more energy to it. And some people are driven with that. I don't happen to be. I try to just say, "Oh, what did I learn from that, or how can I resolve that?" Or a story I was told about. I didn't witness it, thankfully. Was his family, like 10, 12 family members are in a restaurant, and one of them's son, 12-year-old, went into a seizure, had never had a seizure before. And these 12 to 15 other family members, they're all standing around just yelling and screaming and crying and, "Somebody help, somebody help." Not one of them got down on the floor with that 12-year-old because they're so busy with the drama, right? And clearly it was a family trait. Strangers in the restaurant came over, called 911, and put the boy's head in their lap so that he wouldn't hit his head on the, that he was hitting their leg instead of the floor. You can't do that. I mean, you just can't live like that, live life that way. And so I share stories on stage and with people that I meet, and I've got tons of them, right? And we all do. It's just, I'm one of those people that shares my stories. And I think that's the energy, right? And so when we wake up in the morning, we don't know what our day is going to look like. We can hope and we can anticipate and we can plan, but how do you react when, instead of it being that nice, smoothly paved, happy road that you're on, it's steep, winding, has all different kinds of potholes all over it, and you land in one or two of them? How do you come out of that pothole as a whole person? And it's just paying attention to how you react and where your mind goes. Does your mind automatically go negative, or does it go positive?
You're absolutely right.
And sometimes problems just need to be broken down into smaller pieces. I share a story about when my daughter was an infant. We lived in Eugene, Oregon at the time. And for people that don't know, Eugene, Oregon, it rains, 8 months out of the year. And I'm not talking drizzle. I'm talking pour down rain, just constant. And so I had this little infant in a carrier, right? And at the time, our car was a 2-door. So that meant that whenever I needed to put her in the back seat facing backwards, I had to open up the door, push the bench seat forward, climb in the back seat, lock her in. Our home was a 2-door. Our home was an attached 2-car garage, and we didn't have a garage door opener at the time. And so that meant that I dealt with getting our daughter in the back seat of the car, and then I had to physically go over, unlock the garage door with a key, and hand her in the middle of the garage door. Then I had to lift this massive door up, pull the car out, and then the rain, it's pouring down rain. I have to get out of the car, go over, reach up, pull this huge garage door down, lock it again, and get back in the car. I'm drenched by this point, right? And then when we return, I've got the same problem, right? I got to get out, unlock, lock with it. And so I quickly realized, because that's one of the tools that I was born with, is thinking things through. So I need 2 things. I need a car that has 4 doors, so it's safer, right? And I need a garage door opener. And so I told my husband, and I wasn't working at the time, right? So I said, okay, so this is not working for me. This is just not smart. And so we easily got the garage door opener, right? And neighbor helped my husband put it in. That's another whole nother sidebar with what happened with the garage door openers. 11 o'clock at night, it's going up and down, up and down, up and down. And because they're just playing with it, right? They're just so thrilled that they fixed, put this garage door in. Little did we know that the neighbor around the corner had never coated their garage door. So their garage door, every time ours went up and down, so was theirs. They thought someone was trying to break in.
That happened to me.
Yes. Bottom line is the garage door was huge for me. And then I found the car, and that, of course, back then that wasn't easy either because we didn't have the internet. But but it was breaking down those 2 problems and resolving them within the budgets that we had set for ourselves, right? So neither of them was a hardship, but it changed my life for the better. And it changed our daughter's life for the better. And ultimately my husband too, because I wasn't upset about having to go out in the rain all the time and doing that. But those are life stories and lessons that I learned about taking whatever problem it is and just breaking it down and figuring out how it can be resolved. And I've discovered, and that's why I wrote Succeed with Purpose in 2019, I discovered that not all people have those tools.
Right.
And so the book was all about giving ideas of how you take whatever issue it is that you've got and trying to resolve it by figuring out what steps you need to do to get from here to here. COVID hit our country hard. It hit the world hard. And people are stressed, they're depressed, and they're angry. And half the time, none of us know why.
Right.
We just know we are. We're just on edge. And so I wrote Power of Awakening to share with people that you can't walk through life right now in a daze. And I feel as though a lot of people are walking around with this daze, and it's time stops for no one.
Right.
That minute that just went by, we don't get it back. So are you really keyed in and paying attention to what you're doing? Many times we can all just kind of sit back and let life pass us by, but is that living? I don't think so, because this life that each one of us is on is important. Yeah. It's important, and we're here, and people will say to me, well, Sally, your husband only died 2 years ago. How can you be out there and be so joyful and happy and all of that? And finally, I just now look at them and I say, well, he died, I didn't. And people that are going through tragedies and losing children and losing spouses, and you're not the only person that's happening to. right? And you want to take the moment, however that works for you, right? Because when you lose a spouse or you lose a child, that can be devastating. And I don't want anybody to think that I don't think that it isn't devastating. I do. But you cannot cocoon yourself and forget that you're still living. We're on this earth for a purpose. Find your purpose. Your loved one has served their purpose, or that's my belief anyway. And it's time for you to find out what you're here for. And for me, being on stages around the world has been on a bucket list since I was 18 years old. And it was finally time to take ownership of that's what I wanted to do. And that's why I've been on this journey now of 3 books this year and several other books of other people and not reacting to the issues, but see the potential when things show up. The potential of what directions you can go in, I think, is more important.
Absolutely. You touched on something early on, and I thought that was important because when I posted it, I got such, I got some like nasty grams. And I said that marriage is a business and love comes second. And people were like, no, it's a covenant, it's this, that, and the other. And I said, it's a business because when you sign your marriage license, you're signing a contract.
Yes, you are.
When you're buying a home together, you're signing a contract that basically says, I'm going to pay this mortgage and these taxes and this insurance every month. And so you touched on that, and I'm glad you said it because you and I didn't even talk about it.
No.
And I said, no, marriage is a business. And I know we have different religious backgrounds, and that's great. But ultimately, it's a business partnership.
Yes. That's why there's prenups now.
Right.
Just saying.
Yes. And, and I don't want to harp on it, but I know when I got married, that was the best $1,000 that I could have spent. Because you're right. You need a prenup. And I know, someone may say, well, if you're not rich, if you don't have this, you don't need a prenup. But you do. You need that prenup. And it's important because it's a business decision. When you're getting a divorce, if you get a divorce, and not saying you will, but when you go into that lawyer's office or that magistrate or whomever, they're going to say, bring your assets, bring any joint accounts, bring all these things. And you can't say, well, I'm just going to, I'm not bringing all that because it's covenant. No, you have to bring the actual documents.
Yes. I talk about it all the time. Are your assets hiding? Are you keeping your assets hidden? Because, I'm on the other side of it, right? Thankfully, my husband and I were both type A personalities. So our assets were, I did a spreadsheet. I did it for my dad as well. A spreadsheet with all our assets and phone numbers and addresses and policy numbers and everything. So that if something happened to either of us, or God forbid, both of us, our daughter had to figure it out, she needed to know what we have. I mean, we hear stories all the time about, well, yeah, my dad passed away and he's got this ring of keys, but I don't have a clue what those keys go to. I didn't realize that. I had a conversation with a client the other day, and he says, he just got remarried. And he says, my wife and I were talking about, trying to get ready to meet with the financial planner. He says, and I forgot about a 401k I had with a company I worked for 15 years ago. He says, totally forgot about it until we're sitting there talking about it. And I said, exactly. I said, but we can't expect our heirs to remember all the things that we've got asset-wise.
Yes, Sally. And from an insurance perspective, I'm so glad you said that because, again, not that I want to get a divorce, right? And I mentioned to you, I said, I'm an only child. My daughter's an only child. So here it is. I signed a prenup because I know that anything you acquire during the marriage, especially if you have properties or anything like that, it increases in value, that person is entitled. And I said, I'm not going to lose everything that my family worked for and I worked for and even my daughter worked for. I'm just not going to let that happen. And you're right. I'm glad you even brought up the old 401k because I had an old like retirement fund. It wasn't even 401k, but it was like old pensions and things like that. I completely forgot about it. The money was just sitting there. I had an old college fund for my daughter, forgot all about it. And then next thing you know, it comes up and you're like, I didn't know. Now you're looking dishonest because you forgot about it.
Life moved on, whether you paid attention or not. And so by, just having that conversation once a year with a significant other, or in my case, I have it with my daughter, and I have it all the time with my dad, is keeping the assets up to date so that there's no forgetting, so to speak. And of course, now when my husband passed away, it all became mine. And so I consolidated because there's such a thing as too many assets, too many different places. And you have to consolidate when you need to. But it's hysterical. And, and I talk about it. I said, as good as we thought we were, we had 3 major gotchas when he passed away. He has, we have I now have a 1972 Oldsmobile 442, Cutlass 442. Beautiful car, right? My husband's the only owner, less than 100,000 miles.
Wow.
Now, and I think I shared with you, I was married for 45 years. And that car's been licensed and insured in 4 states that we've lived in.
Uh-huh.
And when I called to make sure that the insurance, because it's an antique auto now, the insurance was moved to my name only. She says, well, I'm going to assume your name's on the title. And I go, I'm going to assume my name's on the title too, but I need to check on that. And so I went and I checked on the title. My name's never been on the title of that car. Now, granted, we're in, community property states, so it was always 50% mine anyway, but my name had never, ever been on the title of that vehicle. Gotchas.
Wow, I like that. I like you called it a gotcha. You're absolutely right. Like, I didn't think about these things, I did, but I wanted to be prepared. And it's not saying you don't love a person any less or any more of any of that thing. It just means that you need to be prepared. And I tell parents this all the time, right? Don't wait until you think you're going to become incapacitated or you get older to start sharing these things with your children. Because one thing I always notice is that you have parents and they'll say, well, I'll share when I become older, when I become senile. Well, guess what? At that point, it's too late. So now you have people that's scrounging around your house or your room or wherever, your office, and they're trying to find paperwork on, that you possibly left, or you had a life insurance policy that maybe you had stipulated, well, upon me getting into an accident or this happened, well, you passed, and none of those were applicable. So now your family is sign up, trying to do a GoFundMe or asking family to help with your funeral expenses because you didn't have the right paperwork, because you didn't communicate that. Yes. And I am like a stickler for it. I always tell my daughter, if something should happen, it's not in a computer. I have the hard copies. Go and look in my file cabinet and everything is right there. Because I don't ever want you to get in a situation where something happened and now you're an emotional wreck and you can't handle the business. And I'm not sounding like I'm heartless or anything like that. But my mother was a stickler, was and still is. Like, look, if something were to happen, handle the business first and then you handle your emotions afterwards.
Absolutely correct.
She always said that. And I remember when my grandmother passed and then my uncle passed. So she just came home, like literally just came back from Alabama, and we had to go get on a plane. And I'm like, are you upset? She's like, no, we got to go handle a business. Let's go, pack a bag and let's go. So even down to our clothes in our closets and different things like that. She's like, look, when it comes time for you to handle this, she always says, handle business, you need to grab and go and be prepared. Have everything together. And again, Sally, I'm glad you're touching on this, because this, of course, was not the direction we're going, but we're talking about it. I'm like, you know what? Be prepared. We can mourn later. And she's always saying, look, don't put the money in the ground. Don't do this. Don't do that. We need to be prepared, because your ashes are going to disintegrate and all these things are going to happen. But have the conversation with your children, and make sure that if you do leave them something, put it in a trust. Don't will it, because now someone like me, if you say, I'm going to leave something to my daughter, guess what? My daughter may be stuck with inheritance taxes that she doesn't have. She's under 18. So be mindful. You have the expert right there that's telling you to be mindful. Or you say, I'm not going to leave anything to my children, or, because they're my heirs, they get it anyway, but they don't know how to handle it. So they end up losing everything you have anyway.
Absolutely. That's why, having a will and a trust, and it's just an important part of doing things. And you were saying that you didn't have anything on your computer. There's a lady here in a town close by where I live, and she lost both of her parents close together. And she's the one that they went in, they said, what do these keys all belong to, right? Her and her siblings. And she started a company called the Knock Box, NOK box. And NOK stands for next of kin. Mm-hmm. And so you can go online and just Google Knockbox, and she has a file box, and it's got all these files in it, right? And every file has a piece of paper front and back. And so, for example, the mortgage file, if you have a mortgage, you as the owner fill out all the data, your mortgage, your loan number, at the time, what you owe, how to get in contact with the company, blah, 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 blah. And then on the flip side is for your next of kin. And it's a checklist for them.
I love it.
So she also has electronic versions, but I actually made them into PDFs so that I can have it copies on a flash drive in my safety deposit box, paper copies in my safety deposit box, as well as the hard copies in the file drawer. And then the flash drive. And so because here's what I found when my husband passed away. He had a laptop and he had 2 business computers. And we could not get his passwords to work on any of them. Just because there's a computer does not mean you're going to be able to get into it. Now, if you have somebody that's really good at hacking, they might be able to do that. But in the case of my husband's and my computers, we have a lot of HIPAA stuff. So we have pretty secured computers. But, bottom line is figure out what works for you and your family, but don't keep it in the dark. Don't keep your kids in the dark. And if you want them to have something, perhaps give it to them before you pass.
Right.
So you can share joy.
Right.
The bottom line is most of us have kids that have homes of their own and they don't want any of our stuff. You look at all my pretty stuff behind me. My daughter doesn't want anything. She might want, but she's already got copies of my books, so she doesn't even need those, right? It's stuff. But the important stuff, the assets, the money that should be going to family members. When our daughter was underage, when she was under 18, our trust was set up 7 people deep. If something happened to my husband and I, this is the first person that our daughter would go to. If they weren't able to do that, then here's the next person. If they weren't able to do it, we went down 7 deep. That's what our attorney had us do. And we had it set up that, yes, there was an executor, and then there was a second family member involved, but she got pieces of the estate when she was 18, 21, 25, and at 35, she was going to get the bulk of the estate. Because at 35, she's, lived enough life to know what to do with the money and assets and things like that. Thankfully, that didn't happen. She's 37 now, and I'm still around. Mm-hmm. But those are the things that people with younger children have to think about. There are people out there, the husband and wife goes out for dinner and they get hit by a drunk driver and are dead. And they've left these children that if they haven't made choices for them, then the courts are going to make choices for them. Exactly.
You're right. I mean, I couldn't even say it any better. So we need to be prepared, and I think that was, like I said, a great segue for us to talk about, because I've heard it so many times. There's always a GoFundMe. There's always, if you want to donate, now they actually have like these things where you can lockbox, like the electronic online where, if you want to donate, click on this, but it's really attached to like a Cash App. And, you have to realize that, and it's probably like a part of it's being controlling, you want to control, and that's great. Or you hear about either one or, one of the two parents going to a nursing home, something happens. Once you go into that nursing home, you lose everything. Like, you're no longer responsible. I mean, I've had stories where your parents go into this facility, they lose everything. And now you say, before you go in there, I'm going to withdraw your money and I'm going to put it here so the nursing home doesn't get it. Well, guess what? Now you're committing a felony.
Yes. You can't do that.
No.
There are some really messy things out there that people run into, and they're again going back to hold my crown. There's every story in there is a different story, and it's a different situation that we each found ourselves in, and how we dug deep and pulled ourselves out of it, and some of us kind of just brushed those things off. I never thought a whole lot about it, that it was anything extraordinary. It's like it was, right? And when they said that after our daughter was about 1.5, 2 years old, and they said, well, are you going to have a second child and all that? And we'd already been told we'd have 90% chance of the same thing happening. And I just look at them and I laugh, because I'd already said it to my husband. I said, the only way he's going to get a second child is a second marriage, because I'm done. I survived it, and I understood the gravity of not having a stroke and not being incapacitated and being able to be a part of raising our daughter. But I wasn't willing to take the chance a second time around, and then I'm going to deprive her as well as another child that we would have, because I had a need to have another baby.
Yes. So Sally, can you talk a little bit about what's your chapter about in the Hold My Crown? Because first of all, when we were initially talking about that, just the statement Hold My Crown, I thought it was phenomenal, even from like a friendship perspective, because sometimes you're tired and you want your friend or whomever to hold your crown.
Yes, you do. And especially if you're going through something fairly significant in life, it's, here, hold my crown while I go take care of stuff, right? Or be there as a support person. Or we originally, it's funny how the book even came about, right? We in the first weekend of March of 2020, right when COVID was just starting to be talked about, Michelle Moras, who was the main author and pulled the book together, she invited several of us women down to her cabin in a place called Westcliff, which is about 2 hours south of me. It's out. It sits between two mountain ranges. It's a beautiful little town. And we were going to be working on writing our chapters, just a writer's retreat, not anything in particular, just whatever it is that we wanted to write on. And she was going to be able to be there to kind of answer questions and assist and just be in a nice environment, right? And we started saying, well, we gotta all write chapters and put it in a book. Great. So you know how women, and a couple glasses of wine later, we said, well, someone says, well, what should we call it? And they said, one of the ladies said, well, hold my beer, and she had a beer in her hand. We said, we were laughing and carrying on. We said, not quite the classy title that we were looking for, but you're on the right track, right? And it ended up being Hold My Crown, because we really liked the analogy with Rosie the Riveter back in World War II, I think it was, where she has a scarf on her head and she's like holding her hand up with her muscles, Rosie the Riveter, right? And we like that power for women, that women took the place in all these factories during the war. And if it wasn't for the women holding down these jobs, where would our country have gone? Because the men were at war. And where would we be as women? And there's going to be a King's version as well of Hold My Crown. Where would we be without each other, right? excuse me, my husband died. Hold my crown while I go make sure that my life doesn't fall apart because I've got all these things I have to do by law to make sure that his estate can get closed. Or hold my crown. This person is not behaving well and I need to go take care of business, right? It was just that great analogy, and it helped pull our stories together. So my story was truly the journey of being, at the time I was a cosmetologist. I did hair and I was an advanced hair cutter and makeup artist. And so, 5 days a week I was standing behind a chair, working on making people look gorgeous. And I was put to bed the week before Thanksgiving, which for anybody that's in my industry at the time, that's Thanksgiving and Christmas are big time for hairdressers, and a lot of money changes hands. But I was put to bed. I was put to bed throughout the holidays, and they drugged me so they didn't care if I didn't care if I was up or not. But that was my story about, it's kind of the parameters that I had to live under, knowing that I'm not a person that really slows down much, right? But my doctor was really good about knowing that I wouldn't slow down. And if I didn't slow down, my blood pressure was off the charts. It was stroke level. And so if they didn't put me on drugs to calm me down, then the outcome might not be too good. Right. And, but my story, and there's a few others that are similar, but really what Dr. Michelle Mraz tried to do when she's putting the book together is to find ultimately 19 women with different stories, some of them similar, some of them different, and how we survive. One of the ladies, I won't even go into their stories, but the book itself is phenomenal. But really what we wanted to create with it was that none of us is on an island by ourselves. Men, women, children, none of us is on an island by ourselves. And when tragedy hits, no matter what it is, we have to figure out who we can get help from. But what I discovered when my husband passed away, I had lots of friends and family that were around and supported me. But truthfully, the closest hand for help is attached to your own arm. And if you remember that you ultimately are the person that's responsible for the trajectory that your life takes and how you respond to those things that happen in your life. And as your mom says, get the business done first. Yeah. Then crash and burn later. I'm a lady that a year after her husband died, a month after my husband died. And she says, Sally, how do you even get out of bed in the morning? She says, I've been in bed for 6 months. I can't even get up and think of starting my day. And I'm sad for her. My heart breaks for her. But I didn't have that luxury. Clearly she did. Her kids came in and took care of things for her. But I personally was the one that was responsible for those things. And so I got business done. Now, I do share with people. I said, my husband was a severe asthmatic. Matter of fact, he'd been hospitalized for his asthma many, many times. And in the 15 years prior, he'd been on life support 3 times. So I already had a lot of practice with what's my next step. So when he finally got cancer and died 4 months after diagnosis, I'd already mentally had done this. This is my 4th time through. This time I just had to put check marks by the things that were done and follow up and stuff, but tragedy happens just as much as the fun things, and it's how you deal with it. Just where you take yourself, and I prefer to be the fun person. And so I don't generally wallow in that little personal pity party. I don't say I don't have pity parties. I have them. You just don't know that I'm having them because they're not public knowledge.
Right. You're absolutely right. And I like that book. It's about the resilience and how you go through things, and it's okay. It's just how you handle it. And sometimes you can't even think about like the emotional part. Not saying that you're not emotional, because you are. It's just that when things happen, you have to make sure that you handle your business. And I know I've even been dinged by like family friends. They're like, well, you need to mourn, you need time out. And I'm like, I understand, but I need to handle this. That's the way I was raised, and it is, I don't know if it's a right or wrong answer, but it just is for me.
And we are each, that's what makes us all humans unique, right? We all handle things differently based off of the tools that we personally were born with, the ones that we accumulate along the way because of the people in our world and our parents and our siblings and all of that. The things that happen and how we react because of the storms that come into our life and leave our life. But we each have to give grace to how the other one handles it. So those people, like this lady that couldn't get out of bed, I said, I am thankful that you're able to handle it that way. I said, I'm not blessed with that gene. And I'm thinking to myself mentally, thankfully, because I wouldn't deal with that very well. I said, but, and I've said this to people all year long, you do you. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the things that came out of all the COVID stuff that's going on. And I mean, I've traveled a lot this year, so I've seen a lot of people going through with double masks on and triple masks on. Bless them. I don't travel that way, but I allow them to do that. If that's what allows them the freedom and to feel safe going from point A to point B, then they need to do that. Mm-hmm. But I don't have the right to tell them what they should do, nor should they come back to me and say, you're not protecting me by not wearing a mask. Mm-hmm. You do you, I'll do me, we'll all get along. Yeah. Give some grace. Just give some grace. It's not rocket science. It's just being good. And, it's one of the things I talk about in both in Succeed with Purpose as well as Power of Awakening. It's an acronym I call the work, right? Because that's just me. It's the W stands for willingness to step outside your comfort zone, because everything great stands 1/4 inch outside that comfort zone.
Oh, I like that.
And O is to be organized, whatever that means to you, right? Be organized. R stands for building relationships with people like you and I. We didn't know each other 2 months ago. Hello. What magic are we going to have happen between us in the next 12 months? It's going to be phenomenal, right? That trajectory just changed. Yeah. And K is kindness. What happened to kindness? I said, it costs nothing to be kind and give grace to people, because you are not walking in their shoes. Right. And some people's shoes, I am thankful because I'm not sure how they're standing. Right. Yeah. I'm just saying. And so be kind to people and just understand that, everybody has their journey, and some people have a direct route and others do the cartoon family circle where the mom says, go get something out of the refrigerator. And he goes 20 bazillion places before he ever gets to the refrigerator. Just be kind and give grace. Mm-hmm. That's just what it's all about. And someone shared with me this year, Mark Twain quote, let me think the best 2 days of your life are the day that you're born and the day you find out why. Always have the why. Always have the why. Why are you here? And are you doing everything that you're meant to do? Because instead of just getting up and doing what you normally do, because that's what you normally do, think about why you're doing it. And is it giving you everything that you want out of life? Because I'm here to tell you, we all have this one life. And if you can't figure out what's best for you, ask somebody that you can trust. Find a mentor. Find a mentor. I've been blessed with several mentors in my life that have changed the way I do things. And thankfully for me, and there again, it's things I was born with, right? The things that the genetics that I got from my parents, people saw me as a leader very young in life. Mm-hmm. And they polished that. It's just like the kids in school and we used to call them teachers' pets, but really it goes more deep than that. They're kids that are very inquisitive and they ask why and give me more and give me more, give me more. And other kids say, stay away from me. Just give me my little box over here and leave me be. Mm-hmm. we all have potential to do whatever we want to in life.
You're absolutely right.
Now, I can never be a rocket scientist. I am not that good at math and science. That's not my forte. That's not the genetics I was given. I'm not stupid, but I'm not rocket science capabilities. I mean, what was that? The movie, the 3 women that worked for NASA.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so crazy. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Anyway, those women were brilliant, right?
Yes.
I mean, they could do calculations faster than their computer, their little key and thing that they were using to, there are those people those are God-given talents. The people that can sit down, and the prodigies that can sit down and play a piano from just hearing the song. That's not all of us. We
Right.
don't all have those skill sets. And so I say be great and have passion and go towards what you want to be, as long as you have the aptitude for it. God bless school teachers. I could never be one.
Oh gosh, yes.
But people always say, well, they don't get paid much. Well, most of the teachers I have get paid pretty good for working 9 months out of the year. But they chose that profession, right? They chose a profession knowing that there was this cap. And I think most people that work for somebody else knows that there's a cap to how much that they can earn. I have a friend that was an engineer, and he was looking to become an entrepreneur because he says, I've hit the cap for what I can make as an engineer. I am at the top of the pay scale. I cannot go any further than that. And so when people are looking at career fields, if money motivates you, find something that you can make unlimited money doing. And as an entrepreneur, I can tell you that's where I'm at. I don't like anybody telling me when I can and cannot take a vacation. I don't like anybody telling me that I can't make as much money as I want.
Right.
And so I'm fortunate to be in a line of work that, depending on how many hours I want to work a week. So I make a nice living. Do I need to jump and make a nicer living? No, everything I do now is because I enjoy doing it. And I enjoy sharing stories and inspiring people to just rethink how they do things. Quarter of an inch tweak can change the whole thing, the whole dynamics of what you do and how your family is and in your life. And I want everybody to wake up like I do every day and be happy that I have this life and that I have the freedom to do what I want to do. And if I want to change careers, I can change careers. It's not handed to me. I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. I wasn't given, I didn't inherit millions of dollars. Everything I have, we've worked for.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that somebody else doesn't work harder than me or less than me. I worry about me. What does Sally think she's worthy of, right? And go get it. Figure out, bring people in your world that can help you get there, because there's enough of us out there that have expertise that can help you get where you want to go.
Exactly.
But don't expect it for free.
You're absolutely right.
Nothing worth having you'll get for free. And
Right. And sometimes you have to take 8 steps back to take 5 forward, and it's okay. I think it was Robert De Niro said, sometimes you just got to enjoy the ride.
That's what life is. It's that journey.
It's the journey.
It's setting a goal. If you're a goal setter, it's setting a goal, but the goal isn't really the ultimate, right? It's that journey to the goal.
Yes.
It's what do you learn along the way to that journey, and not be so strict. And here's that box that goal is in, and you put blinders on and you don't see what's going on. It's what's happening out here on that journey that is what you're supposed to be experiencing. Mm-hmm. As I told you, I wouldn't have been on the trajectory that I'm on had it not been for 3 people saying to me, Sally, you need to be at this event in Dallas.
Yeah.
And they're people that I knew, liked, and trusted, because I knew if they were saying, Sally, if you can at all be there, you need to be there. We're going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I made sure I was there. And that has just changed everything. Again, talking about those ripples across the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one thing in my life this year, and it changed the complete. Did it change where I was going? It absolutely changed where I was going. It made where I was going. I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there with so much more.
Right. You're absolutely right. And you're absolutely right. Because even like how you and I met, right? If it hadn't been for someone else, I would have never met you.
Yeah.
Never. And she said, you need to join this group. You need to meet these types of people. And I'm like, you know what? There's something to that. I need to check it out.
Yes.
It's the same thing. You're right. One thing can change the whole trajectory, but you have to be willing to be open-minded and mindful of these things. You have to be.
Yes.
And I know for me, some things were like, well, I don't know. I kept talking myself in and out of it. But that particular time I said, you know what? If it's a flop, it's just going to be a flop. But I'm never going to say, I wish I would have. I just did it.
That's it. And that's just it. Sorry, my cat has decided to wake up.
That's okay. I understand. This is live. What happens?
Yeah, it's we all have failures.
Mm-hmm.
We all have them, but we don't have to have our own pity party in our failures, because everybody has them. Three autobiographies that I absolutely were my favorites, and I would read all of them again. And it's not politics. These books had impacts on me because it gave me an insight into people that I didn't know. My favorite autobiography, written by Barbara Walters herself. Mm-hmm. It's like the book's like that thick, right? But she talks about her journey from a young girl being in the shadow of her parents, mm-hmm. being worldly. Richard Branson, you know how many failures Richard Branson had before he had purpose? The man still has failures, right? And Donald Trump, love him, hate him, doesn't matter what. But he has been a part of some pretty phenomenal autobiographies. And there again, he grew up in the shadow of his father and the strictness that his father had for him and what he had to abide by. And so, we all have people in our lives that can help push us or pull us away. There's a video of, I'm trying to think of the lady's name. She's part of the Golden Girls, Rue McClellan. Uh-huh. I think it was when she was accepting her first Grammy. And she remembers her mom. She tells a story about her mom telling her that there are going to be people that give us, hold on, let me think about that. What was it called? It was called boosts and kicks. She said there are going to be people in your life that are going to give you a boost in life. And there are people in your life that are going to give you a kick. The importance is that you remember who those people are that give you the boost and who give you the kick.
Yeah, she did say that.
So
you're absolutely right.
So I always try to remember, there's, I had that conversation off air, about the two definitions of a doormat. Mm-hmm. There's that mat that you have in front of your door that you want people to wipe their feet on before they come into your home. And then there are those people that you lay down for and let them walk all over you time after time after time. And they tell you they're going to walk all over you, and then you let them walk all over you. Mm-hmm. And then you wonder why they walk all over you. Those are the kickers. You need to realize that those people are always going to walk over you because they don't respect you for who you are.
You're absolutely right.
When you get into a position where they need you, you need to remember that they were the kickers. Because if you let them in your inner circle again, they're only going to come back and kick you again. Mm-hmm. Because they've never learned that lesson. They've always gotten to where they wanted by putting other people down. And you and I don't subscribe to that. We're all about lifting people up. That doesn't mean you can take advantage of us, but we're willing and able to help wherever we can to boost people to where they want to go.
Yep, you're right. Well, I know that I'm always saying this to my daughter. The same thing Trump said. He's like, no liquor, no alcohol, no gambling, no drugs. And I said to my daughter almost every day. She is sick of hearing it. I always say that. And I think no matter who it is, when they write these books, it's not about you liking them personal. They're not going to sit at your kitchen table, right? But you can get something out of it.
That's right.
And I
There's
think
always something.
There's always something that you will remember what they have said. And even Branson, he didn't see him reality show, because I know he has the version, but he always gives like a little nugget whenever you see him. Not too often you see him, but he always gives a little nugget. And even Barbara Walters, I know like they had some people on the show used to call her BW, and they talked about what impact she's had in their lives.
Yes.
I mean, but then again, I mean, you're talking about someone who's interviewed thousands of people. She had to have dropped a couple of nuggets along the way.
Yes.
But it's up to you whether or not you want to like take heed of it. I mean, apparently she knew what she was talking about, right? Because you hear people all the time quoting different things she said.
Well, and it's what she had to go through. I mean, when she had the opportunity to interview Anwar Sadat and was over in the Middle East, and everybody told her she couldn't do that. She was female. She wasn't allowed to. He would not even see her because she was female, and she did it. She did it. Even Oprah Winfrey. One of my favorite stories that I've read about Oprah Winfrey is when she was on TV, when she's doing interviews in Chicago, and she had the opportunity to interview Maya Angelou. And she showed up early, made sure that where they were going to be talking, everything was perfect for when Maya Angelou sat in that chair. And she said, everybody said, well, why were you that man? And she says, and when Maya Angelou sat in that chair, I began asking her the questions. And when my time was up, I thanked her for her time and we were done. She says, how you show up on, in this case, on something like this massive, on time. And when you tell your audience you're going to be an hour, you're an hour. And she says, that's why Maya Angelou became such a close friend of hers, is because Maya said, you respected me and you had everything ready for me. I just had to walk in the door, sit down, and you did everything for me. And she said, those are the things that she says, I learned along the way. She said, I just learned them. And nuggets.
Yeah.
And they're done.
Yes.
Maya would have given her grace had that not gone that way.
Yes. You're absolutely right. And you know what? The same with you. You said, I always give people grace, and you're absolutely right. And I appreciated that. And I kept saying, thank you. I'm sorry. But it's just, to me, it's just a matter of always showing people respect.
That's exactly correct.
And you have to respect people for their time, and you have to respect them for showing up.
Yep, absolutely correct.
You have to. And I always tell my daughter, okay, you're liked, great, but you have to give respect and you have to demand respect. And you always have to, you want more for yourself.
Yes.
You show up, whether you want to or not. Sometimes we're sick. Sometimes we don't feel like it. There's so many things, but show up.
Yeah.
Be at the table. Be on the big stage. And I always say, ask questions. You're going to learn, like I said earlier, we were talking about, you learn from people in projects.
Yes.
Show up and ask them questions.
Yeah. Life can be dessert every day if you choose to make it dessert.
Yes. I was telling someone last week, and he says, well, you have a PhD, you got all these degrees. I said, you know what? I'm still a student. No matter what, I'm still a student, and I always will be. And I love it. I love learning, because learning is not just in books. You can learn from people. Like I said, you learn from projects. You learn from so many different things. And every day you should learn something.
Yeah. And you should teach something.
You're absolutely right. Teach something.
Both. We can all learn from each other. We can all learn. And I could go on with stories, and so can you. But we've got to be there for each other.
Yes.
And one of the things that I found before COVID, and I don't know if it's changed much now, but when you're put in a position to show up, a job interview, an interview that you're going to be talking to a person, be presentable. Now,
yes.
It's awesome with podcasts and things like that, because we're just seeing each other. I could have cut off shorts on and you wouldn't know it, right? But if you're going into an interview, be the best you can be.
Exactly.
Respect that person is willing to talk to you,
mm-hmm.
and perhaps even give you the job. But you've got to act like you want the job.
Yes.
You've got to act like you already have the job.
Exactly. Jamie Foxx said that he was, I forget what award he was accepting, but he said his grandmother taught him so much. She said, act like you got some sense. Act like you've been taught something, And my mother always said, act like you got some sense. Always, put your best foot forward. These little things that as a child, I know for me, I was like, oh my God, here she goes again. But they're so important. All of these things are important. I tell my daughter all the time, I said, you know one thing? Right now, I'm getting on your nerves and I get it. But guess what? You're going to look back one day and you're going to say, you know what? I'm so glad that I listened, not here, but listen, because I'm always telling her that. And, I'm glad that I was taught these things because now I know. I was getting on her. She was invited to a brunch. It was at a church a couple of weeks ago. And I said, okay, so it's at a church and it was between 11 and 2. And I said, okay, so it's 11 and 2. And I said, so what's the dress? And she was like, Mom, it's a brunch. I said, but here it is, a lesson to it. I gave about 3 lessons. I said, okay, so we have to know which is the dinner fork or the lunch fork and which is the salad spoon, the salad fork and things like that. And so she's like, oh my God. I said, so really technically, I said, brunch, that's really not lunch. That's really like brunch. So I gave her this whole thing. And wait a minute, let's get the dress code together. And she's like, oh my gosh. But I told her, I said, I remember at an early age, my mother set the table and she said, okay, this is the salad fork, the dinner fork, the dessert fork. This is the steak knife, the butter knife. You knew what plates, what a charger is, and, just different things like that. And she did that at an early age. And I kept saying, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. And even brunch. Okay, if you're at brunch and, what's the difference of formal and after 5 and casual? We went over that. And even her friend, so my daughter's friend is on the phone. She's like, oh my God. I said, look, these things are so important because people pay attention to you.
Yes.
It's important. And I even posted, I said, look, you need to know the difference of a red wine glass, a blush, because you need to know these things just in case.
Yeah.
And here we were when Queen Elizabeth passed and they were talking about the different etiquette. And I'm like, who else better to teach etiquette and who else better to do etiquette than going to have dinner with, Queen Elizabeth?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you need to know these things. So, I'm, like I said, Sally, thank you so very much for coming on because we had some nuggets here today and we learned about different things. And I want to say thank you because I don't want people just to hear things from me because in school, you don't go to one class, right?
Exactly. And I think it's just the combination of just being able to key off of each other and the stories that we accumulated between our lives, and they'll help somebody somewhere along the way. They'll make them stop and think, what they're doing with their life and what they've missed, what they need to learn.
Yes, and the world is big. We were just talking about even going like throughout the US, and there's so much history, there's so many things to see. Like, you don't have to go out this country to do that. I mean, travel. We were talking about, remember I said I want to take like a train ride throughout the US?
Yes.
Yes, I want to do all those things. You talked about you and your friend, want to do something, and I was like, you know what, we have to. And these are the things that's important. And you're right, when you talk about life, you only get one. There's no do-over.
Yeah. Well, you need to take the train to Colorado in January.
Yes, absolutely. I told you, I love that whole the mountain region where they had the kissing rams up there. I thought that was phenomenal.
Yep.
And let me tell you, Sally's from Colorado. If you ever get an opportunity, if you want, and I said pubs because I'm a foodie, to go to Colorado and see the 4 Points, and you want to go to a pub, and you want to go to region, make sure you go. But if you are in the southern parts of the U.S., make sure when you go that you have your parkas and you're prepared for the weather, because Colorado is the best kept secret. And I know we always look at Colorado as ski, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah, we can go from 75 in the afternoon to -20 in the evening if the cold front comes through.
Yes, you can.
We can have no snow, or we can have feet of snow. It's and obviously the mountains are a little bit different, but Colorado it's a beautiful part of the country, and you have all the seasons here. We're in fall. It was 75 yesterday. It's going to be 55 tomorrow.
Yes, that's true. And because I remember when we were like doing our little hike or whatever, I'm like, oh, it's like 60 or 70. Okay. Next thing you know, I'm like, wait a minute. Did we just go into winter here? Like,
Just like that.
Yes. I'm like, oh my gosh. And the 4 Points, remember we talked about that? Yep. You have to go. So,
the thing that people have to remember, especially if you're in the East Coast, the Northeast Coast, is we had people from Hartford come out here one time for a conference, and they said to us that we're just going to pop down to Four Corners for the day and check it all out, blah, 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 blah. And we're all just, those of us from Colorado, saying, you're going to do what? So we're going to pop down to the Four Corners. We said, you're not popping anywhere. That's an 8-hour drive. Well, no, it's only that far on the map. No, it's a 2-lane road in some places. It's, a minimum of 8 hours. And that's if you don't get behind a potato truck, right? And they go, well, we can't do that in a day. We said, no, you can't do that in a day.
No, you can't.
So the states are bigger out here is what I'm saying. The states are bigger out here.
Well, in New Jersey, we're small. Connecticut, you always say, well, everything is right down the street. Well, it's not. And I thought the same thing. Oh, it's like right there. No, it's really not.
That's right. LA, you can be a mile from where you want to go, and it's going to take you 5 hours to get there because of traffic.
Yes.
Here's potato trucks, but anyway.
Yeah, I remember I'm gonna let you go, but I remember going to Starbucks. Starbucks in Colorado tastes different than Starbucks here. Yes. I mean, the ingredients are the same, but the taste is different. Even the pubs, like we have a lot of pubs here, and that's the thing. I'm like, wow, it's different. You can get an entire history lesson just in Colorado, I promise.
Yep. As you can in all the different states, right? They've all got different things to do, but I really think you need to look at that train to come out here for the speakers camp the end of January. I think that would be fabulous.
Oh, I'm coming.
Train out and fly back,
Yeah, I'm definitely coming. I'm coming. We're going to talk about that offline, but I'm definitely coming. Yep. I even put it in my phone. I'm coming. Yep. But I want to say thank you so very much for just taking the time to show up for little old me and just talking to me, and just even before we record the episode. Thank you so very much, because we talked before and I felt like I had known you forever, and I said that, and just just different things you've said to me. And I said, you know what? You changed the trajectory of me, right? I said, I looked at things totally different. And I woke up, like when you hang up with a person and you're smiling and you don't even know why you're smiling, then you realize, like, you know what? At that point, when you and I talked and we hung up the phone, I said, there's some people you talk to and afterwards you're depressed, you're upset. And then there's others where they actually change your whole mindset. Like, I'm just going to wake up happy. you probably were going through something that day or whatever, right? But the way you came across to me, like I'm telling you, since then, I've just been totally happy and just satisfied and thinking like, you know what, things are just not that bad.
I call people like that there's a story, and I won't share the whole story, but I'll share the coffee bean. Coffee beans are hard-shelled. I don't know what they're called, but anyway, coffee beans are hard and they're bitter. If you taste them, they're bitter.
Yes.
When you put them in hot water for 20 minutes, boiling hot water, it releases this wonderful aroma.
Yes.
This wonderful tasting coffee. So what coffee beans do is they go into, in this case, adversity or boiling water.
Mm-hmm.
Coffee beans go into adversity and they change the environment.
Yes.
And that's what I try to do when I meet people, is that I try to make sure that the environment that I leave when I leave is better than when I came in, or at least equal to. So you're a coffee bean. You're changing the environment around you, because I'm sure when you made that change after our last conversation, everybody around you changed because you changed.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to say thank you for that, because again, that was not my intention. I said, we're going to have a 15-minute conversation. That's it. But it totally was not like that. And you see how people can change you. And
yes,
you probably had no idea, but I'm like, you know what? She really left an impression with me. And I really appreciate that. And I was like, Sally, you're like a friend of my mind. I don't know if you know this, but I did say it, and I really, like I said, thank you so very much for, just that, just being you and just showing up, like I said, the way you did, and continuously do it. I love that, but thank you so very much. And I'm going to post it, but can you please tell people, where can they find you? Although I don't want them to, because I'm selfish and I want all the time for myself, but I can't do that. I have to share.
You know what? I'm in all the favorite places, right? I'm mostly on Facebook. That's kind of my soup du jour. So just find me as Sally Wurr on Facebook. I think my book website is sallywurr.com, and I think it's going to be going live here pretty soon. We're just kind of adding little pieces to it, but sallywurr.com is my speaking and writing part. My insurance company is swinsurancecorp.com. So it's SW stands for Sally Wurr. I was not real creative with my company name. Everybody thinks it's Southwest Insurance. No, it's Sally Wurr Insurance Corp.
Yes.
But yeah, I would love to hear from people, and I appreciate you sharing with me what my impact was for you.
It was.
Because
it was very impactful. And then again, like I had a rough day that day. I'm like, oh my gosh, just your day, just working and things like that. And afterwards, I'm like, wow, like I swear I was smiling so hard, like my jaw felt like, I had like cramps there. And I'm like, wow, it's just that whole smiling again and again. You left that impression with me. And I'm thinking, you're like Sally, I'm running late. You're like, okay, it's okay. And I'm like, wow, I really appreciate that. We need more people like that. We really, really do.
Yep. Angel Tussey, if you ever get into one of her classes, will tell you that she nicknamed me just having grace whenever things blow up around me. She calls those Sally Wurr moments, and it's because whenever I'm either in the wrong place at the wrong time, or appointments don't go quite on time, it's the universe telling me that I was supposed to need that time to do something else for me. And so you didn't know it, but I had things I had to get done. And so that extra time gave me the chance to get those things done. And so the universe ordained that because it knew that I needed the time. It knew you needed the time. So anyway, it's been a pleasure. It's absolute pleasure, as it has been each time. And I'm so honored to be on your show.
No, likewise. Well, we're going to keep in touch because we have some information to share. And look, you're not going to get rid of me, so you can't.
Good. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person.
Absolutely. And that's a promise. Well, like I said, thank you so very much for coming on. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate everything you've done and just taking the time and showing up. But thank you, Sally, and everyone. Like I said, I'm selfish because I'm like, I can have her to myself, but please reach out to her, get her books. Go to her speaking engagements. You're going to learn. I said a nugget, but of course it wasn't a nugget. It was like a whole cluster. So you're going to learn so much. Get the book. She recommended books by Trump, Branson, and Barbara Walters. Go get those books because she is absolutely correct. I know we always like the Cliff Notes, and I know we always like the movies and things like that, but it's different than reading the book. You get the entire picture. So we need to go back to that. And not the audiobooks, read the book. But thank you so very much, Sally. I appreciate you. And thank you, everyone, for listening in and joining. I appreciate you too, as always. And we are out of here.
You've been listening to The Truth of the Matter with Dr. Spencer. Yes, we talk about taboo topics, but that's life, and we keep it real and raw. Our passion is to educate and enlighten. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review the show. And we'll be back soon. But if you have a unique relationship situation and you'd like help, or you're tired of having to choose between your career and personal life, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer is a life alignment strategist and a certified life, relationship, and business coach. So make sure to reach out on Instagram and TikTok at Dr. Lamarr Spencer, on Twitter at Dr. Spencer 15, on Facebook at Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer, and the website drlamarrspencer.com. Or go old school and call 973-214-6464.
Don't forget to purchase the book, The Depth and Diversity with Relationships. Find it on Amazon and the website.
See you next time on The Truth of the Matter.